In the enigmatic city of Kaliningrad, a deep crack is forming in the facade of Russia's influence in Europe. For years, this territory has been a paradox, a region of power, yet vulnerably exposed. Though outwardly, the populace is under the iron grip of Russian governance, whispers in alleyways hint at a brewing storm, talk of potential war and growing uncertainty fills the air. Shop windows bear witness to conspicuous supply shortages, mirroring the locals' apprehension about the future. Caught between NATO forces on three sides, Kaliningrad teeters on the edge of crisis, a choking grip of sanctions and restricted trade that has only tightened since 2022. The elite, once secure in their positions, now feel the ground shifting beneath their feet as anxiety grows among the people. Conversations that once centered on order now clash with conversations of survival. With nearly 500,000 residents, lives are increasingly dictated by appointment times rather than the freedom of passports. As rumors swirl, a sense of panic seeps through the cracks. Kaliningrad exists as a Russian enclave yet is utterly disconnected from the mainland, cut off by the sulky corridor, Moscow's persistent thorn, a strategic red line noted in the capitals of Europe. In this fragile landscape, the flow of supplies dictates daily life. Every train schedule, every fuel line, becomes a vital artery of survival. In the summer of 2022, Lithuania enforced European sanctions, sweeping through Kaliningrad and sending shockwaves through its merchants. Panic became the currency of the moment. What goods would vanish next? Even when transit restrictions were eased, the trust once underpinning the supply chain crumbled, leaving the city's dynamics in disarray. The debate rages on: should Kaliningrad lean toward Europe, or remain loyal to Moscow? This dilemma gnaws at the hearts and minds of its inhabitants, dividing loyalties forged over decades. As the city grapples with its identity, the haunting question remains: will it remain a gateway to Europe or become a prison of isolation? With unresolved tensions and an economy gasping for air, the atmosphere grows increasingly oppressive. The desire for a different standard of living sparks a rebellious flame within the populace. Could this era mark a significant turning point for Kaliningrad, as the foundation of loyalty begins to crack, and aspirations for European ties grow louder? The stakes have never been higher, and the resolution remains a suspenseful mystery lurking in the shadows. In Kaliningrad, a city caught between nostalgia for its European past and the looming shadows of Moscow, whispers of unrest echo in the cobblestone streets. Once a dynamic center, this Russian exclave is now teetering on the brink of despair as the specter of war looms ever closer. The populace, increasingly alienated from their rulers, fills the air with anxious speculation. Are we trapped in a cage of our own making? They wonder, unsure of who will be next to face the wrath of a regime desperate to maintain its grip on power. The name Krawiec recently took hold, a term adopted by Poland that enraged the Kremlin but resonated with the hopes of many Kaliningraders. It speaks of history and identity, a reminder of their ties to a once vibrant European culture. Are we the bridge to Europe or simply a forgotten outpost? The citizens ponder, as the traffic of dreams seems to fade amidst rising sanctions and mounting state control. Since the economic chokehold tightened in 2022, thousands of skilled workers in fields like technology and logistics have fled through any available means, passports, visas, and residency permits to escape a crumbling future. For those left behind, each day grows heavier. Soaring costs of living and diminishing job prospects amplify the feeling of suffocation. Tension crackles in elite circles, and authority has tightened its grip, enforcing discipline like a merciless storm cloud hanging over the governor's office, the FSB, and local prosecutors. But beneath the surface, a darker narrative unfolds. The word liquidation hangs in the air. An unspoken truth signaling the fate of those who displease the powers that be. Loyalty, once a passport to security, has become a perilous gamble. As lives are lost under mysterious circumstances, 19 high-profile deaths since the war began, an ominous trend begins to emerge. The streets of Kaliningrad are filled with workers concerned not only for their own safety but also for the futures of their families. Amid the encroaching chaos, the city of Kaliningrad stands as a flashpoint. Will the residents rise to reclaim their narrative, or will they continue to be pawns in a larger game? As the Kremlin strives to suppress dissent, the cries from the streets grow louder. Each disappearance sends shockwaves through the community, deepening the rift between the ruling elite and the ordinary people, those who bear the burdens of a crumbling empire. The atmosphere is thick with uncertainty, and the ever-popular question looms large: who will be next? With their eyes on the horizon, Kinnan raiders are beginning to choose between fear and defiance, history and the future. The stakes have never been higher, and the end of this story remains unwritten. Can unity spark a new beginning, or will the city become a mere footnote in the annals of history? In Kinnenrad, unease ripples through the air, growing louder every day. For years, this city has been a peculiar battleground, one where Russian authority stands in stark contrast to the whispers of dissent in its streets. With rumors of war fluttering among the common folk and shop windows bare of supplies, a crisis in leadership looms. Tension thickens, as the elite feel the pressure of a distant Moscow that seems to disregard the realities of their lives. Once a vibrant connection to Europe, Kinnenrad now lies stranded a Russian exclave surrounded by NATO countries, struggling under the weight of sanctions and ever-changing transit rules. As summer 2022 unfolded, Lithuania's strict enforcement of sanctions ignited panic, a race against time to secure essentials. The formerly secure supply lines began to fracture, revealing deep cracks in the facade of order that Moscow so desperately attempts to maintain. Yet, the fear runs deeper than economic anxiety. It manifests in the series of mysterious deaths afflicting high-ranking officials, revealing a chilling narrative of risk and loyalty. As of now, 19 influential figures have met untimely ends since the war began, breathing life into whispers of conspiracy. Just recently, Alex S., a young CEO tied to controversial mining projects, vanished into thin air. His body was discovered near Kinnenrad, a grim reminder of the power struggles at play. In a grim twist of fate, this was not an isolated incident. The streets buzz with theories about the ruthless hit list that seems to be thinning the ranks of those with ties to Russia's power structure. From suspicious suicides to bodies found in strange circumstances, each loss chips away at the veneer of security that the Kremlin insists remains intact. But beneath this turmoil lies a deeper rebellion, a shift in the psyche of Kinnenrad's inhabitants, who yearn for stability and European integration. As rumors strengthen and fears escalate, will the people rise against the Kremlin's oppressive hold, or will they remain stifled in a cycle of loyalty that now feels more like a noose? The stakes have never been higher, and the fabric of trust is disintegrating. One question echoes in the hearts of the Kinnan raiders: can they break free from this oppressive cycle, or are they destined to pay the price for loyalty no longer guaranteed? The city's pulse quickens, and with it, a sense of impending change. In the wake of a shocking executive death in Kinnenrad, the discontent among its citizens has reached a boiling point. A chilling atmosphere pervades the city, where whispers of rebellion fill the air. Residents are increasingly disillusioned with Moscow's grip, yearning for a glimpse of freedom that seems perpetually just out of reach. As the Kremlin tightens its hold, locals face the grim reality, a hardening sense of despair where economic burdens weigh heavily on daily life. Official communications reassure minor progress, but those on the ground feel an overwhelming strain. Economic and social pressures ripple through the community, leaving a landscape marked by uncertainty. The impact of sanctions has strained small businesses, forcing many to pivot towards costly maritime routes due to strict transit limitations. With prices soaring and product availability dwindling, the hopes of maintaining a stable livelihood slip further away. While state narratives herald resilience, the everyday experiences tell a different story, one of exhaustion and disillusionment. Many feel political loyalty is no longer instinctual, and each day becomes a battle against mounting hardships. The once thriving amber industry and tourism sector now swing on the precarious pendulum of fluctuating fortunes, reflecting broader struggles. Tensions simmer regarding the proposed Nvenkoy Patchfield project, revealing complex interactions among community members, businesses, and government interests. Anticipations of job growth clash with pressing environmental concerns, igniting fierce debates in public forums. As the war drags on, access to financial resources tightens, and with it, the dream of a stable future feels increasingly unattainable. A haunting question lingers over Kinnenrad: can they endure? As the streets grow quieter and the yearning for change intensifies, the air thickens with a sense of foreboding, underscoring a stark reality: hope is waning, and dissatisfaction continues to fester, posing a potent threat to Moscow's ambitions. Is a reckoning on the horizon? Or will the grip of despair tighten ever more? The soul of Kinnenrad hangs in the balance, strained but unbroken, awaiting its moment of truth. In a world shrouded in tension, the region of Kaliningrad teeters on the brink of chaos. This expanse, essentially a paradox, epitomizes both the might and fragility of Russian influence in Europe. With the looming specter of conflict and a populace feeling the weight of sanctions, Kaliningrad citizens find themselves grappling with an unnerving reality: are they pawns in a larger game, or are they stepping toward a new identity? In this pivotal moment, what secrets lie beneath the surface of daily life in Kaliningrad? The citizens are caught in a chilling atmosphere, where dreams of a prosperous future clash with a haunting past. With a population of about 1 million, the region's economic lifeblood flows through logistics, tourism, light industry, and mining, yet sanctions and warfare have put this delicate balance under duress. As sea routes become prohibitively expensive and land crossings are fraught with controversy, daily survival morphs into a precarious endeavor. Imagine the murmur of worried conversations filling cafes, the faint scent of fresh bread mingling with the underlying anxiety that hangs in the air. Each passing day amplifies the dichotomy of seeking continuity amidst instability. Can one survive here, or should one escape? These questions gnaw at the very fabric of Kaliningrad's society. The sheer weight of the geopolitical chessboard transforms Kaliningrad into both a fortress and a target. As military presence thickens, S-400 missile systems standing like guardians over a vulnerable perimeter, the reality grows starker: more military assets mean tighter controls. And freedom becomes a distant memory. Yet the presence of NATO, surrounding the enclave like a tightening noose, further intensifies the stress of routine decisions. Recent weeks have brought a chilling crisis of unmanned aerial vehicles, placing Poland on high alert and raising the urgency of response. The skies resonate with the sound of engines, a grim reminder that safety can be mere illusion. Discussions of maritime risks grow louder, and undermined sea lanes become the whispers of a turbulent future. Every hour brings a new anxiety: will the fragile supply lines hold? Each conversation reveals a deeper fear: the very heart of Kaliningrad is crowded with dread. The encirclement by NATO narrows their world, transforming this enclave into what feels like a geographical prison. Amidst this, energy flows become a palpable tension, as costlier goods strain every household. As Kaliningrad citizens navigate this uncertainty, they see their hopes for a normal life dimming. But beneath the surface of survival, is there a rising spirit of defiance? The interactions of daily life echo a longing for connection and identity, amidst the fear. The lingering question remains: can they redefine their future while casting off the shackles of the past? The walls are closing in, but so too are ideas of hope and rebellion. As the clock ticks, will they rise against fate or succumb to the weight of external pressures? In the quiet of their hearts, a revolutionary spirit simmers, waiting for the right moment to explode forth. The standoff of wills, both within and without, may soon reach a breaking point, determining the fate of this beleaguered region. In the secretive enclave of Kaliningrad, a tension has permeated everyday life, stemming from an unnerving military presence. The rise in armed forces looms over its citizens, shaping their choices and fanning the flames of apprehension. As recent crises have heightened alerts in Poland, the echoes of fear ripple across the border. Polish and Allied warplanes have launched vigilant patrols, and ground-based air defenses prepare for potential threats. The specter of conflict hangs heavy in the air, diverting civilian aircraft and provoking the specter of aggression. What does this heightened military readiness mean for Kaliningrad residents? Each alarm pushes the economy to its breaking point, impacting port logistics and tourism. The historical backdrop of this region reveals its complexity. In a significant political twist, 2023 saw Poland's decision to refer to Kaliningrad by its historical name, Królowiec. This wasn't just a mere formality, it was a calculated message that stirred the flames of historical consciousness. The name change suggests a powerful act, intertwining the threads of identity and strategy. Some view this adjustment as a symbolic leap toward reclaiming a past that was overshadowed, while others perceive it as an unsettling reminder of the divisions that history creates. The debate surrounding identity, although overshadowed by security concerns, continues to mold the perceptions of belonging among Kaliningrad's people. With whispers of discontent growing louder, the relationship between Kaliningrad and its Russian overseers becomes increasingly fraught. Citizens yearn for a sense of autonomy and connection to Europe, questioning their future in a territory caught between conflicting influences. As uncertainty reigns, the potential for change looms on the horizon. Will the resilience of Kinnenrad's people ignite a revolution against the forces tethering them to an unwelcome fate? Stay tuned as the story unfolds, revealing the pulse of an enclave on the brink. Earlier we explored how names intertwine strategy and identity in Kinnenrad, shaping the sense of belonging and long-term perception. What if the city that once thrummed with European markets suddenly became a dead end, its streets echoing only the footsteps of soldiers? The Koigberg legacy faded after 1945, giving way to Kinnenrad as peoples shifted and borders redrew. The Soviet view of a closed fortress melted away in 1991, replaced by dreams of an open zone. Daily shopping trips felt like breezes from the west, cultural festivals painted the night with foreign melodies. Visas flowed like river water, tiny border crossings hummed with laughter and cargo crates. Then the tide turned. After 2014 the rhythm slowed, and in 2022 it nearly stopped. For residents, the line from nearby Europe to distant Moscow sharpened, turning into a wall of steel and checkpoints. The war narrowed every corridor, choked the air with the smell of diesel and dust. Putin's fear of losing Kinnenrad grew louder than any propaganda broadcast. The Kremlin now juggles three ruthless strategies: handing over control, erasing the exclave, and tightening security files. These angles cut deeper in fragile zones such as Kinnenrad. Moscow's language grew harsher, demanding obedience. Locals pleaded for flexibility to keep everyday life moving: open markets, school buses, the simple sound of children's games. The contradiction is not new, but the war magnifies it. Tight controls dampen the appetite for risk among businesses. When risk fades, economic vitality evaporates like steam in a cold dawn. Empty storefronts replace bustling stalls, the once bright optimism turns to a bitter taste of loss. This decay fuels unrest, feeding a vicious circle that tightens its grip with each passing day. Breaking the cycle calls for trust, foresight, and bold local initiative. Around every table, the question repeats: what if Kinnenrad disappears? One scenario paints a swift power vacuum as central authority weakens, inviting local security forces and foreign hands to scramble for influence. Another envisions demilitarization under international mediation, a fragile pause in hostilities. A third forces the status quo, binding the city with relentless military oversight. Each path carries its own cost: public safety, supply lines, and the fragile hope of a future. The streets whisper still, waiting for the next decision. What will decide Kinnenrad's fate? In Kinnenrad, the atmosphere is tense. The city balances precariously between Russian influence and the looming presence of NATO, generating an undercurrent of anxiety and uncertainty. For years, it served as a stronghold for Russia in Europe. Yet now, whispers of war resonate in the streets, while supply shortages become evident in shop windows. Confidence in Moscow is eroding, and the local elite are grappling with their insecurities. Imagine navigating a world where the air is thick with dread. Picture citizens edging closer to the brink, feeling the pulse of discontent. On one side, the government clamors for order; on the other, the streets echo with a desperate demand for change. Kinnenrad, once a serene enclave, finds itself amid a fierce tug-of-war. Nearly 500,000 residents are caught in this tumultuous atmosphere, where an appointment can weigh more heavily than a passport. The complications of Kinnenrad's supply chain have reached a boiling point, exposing the city's vulnerability. The Sulky Corridor, a critical access route for Russia, has become a choke point, strained by sanctions. When Lithuania enacted strict enforcement of EU regulations in 2022, panic swept through the city. A shadow of uncertainty loomed over every transaction, casting doubt on which goods might vanish tomorrow. Initially, there was a slight easing of customs for select items, but trust was shattered; true confidence never returned. Now, Kinnenrad citizens are forced to confront the stark reality of their existence. Are they on the brink of European integration, or are they sealed off from the West? As thousands of skilled workers depart for greener pastures in Europe, the remaining population grapples with dwindling resources, rising costs, and increasingly rigid security measures. The elite, shifted to a wartime economy, feel the pinch more acutely. Discipline has infused the atmosphere, seeping into discussions of transparency and loyalty.
A chilling word, liquidation, has come to define the invisible risk that now shadows them.
Could it be that loyalty has transformed into a necessity of survival, just as trust in the Kremlin falters?
Among these strained dynamics, a chilling series of mysterious deaths has emerged, resonating with whispers of an intelligence war. As a high-ranking executive from Kaliningrad is found dead under suspicious circumstances, the reality of fear grips the city tighter.
This marks the 19th notable casualty since the onset of conflict, a grim tally which underscores the volatile environment faced by the elite and commoner alike. What does this say about the future? As tensions grow, a common refrain echoes through taverns and marketplaces: what if we lose Kaliningrad? 3 scenarios unfold in the minds of the populace. Would a power vacuum invite chaos? Could international mediation restore peace? Or would a forced military grip quash any hopes of autonomy?
Each option poses grave questions regarding public safety and the supply chains, all echoing through the cobbled streets.
Meanwhile, the Kremlin's resolve to retain Kaliningrad has led to escalating fears.
The region, laden with symbolic weight, has become a focal point of geostrategic importance, not just a base,
but a lifeline.
With logistics increasingly floundering under restrictions and sanctions, Kaliningrad finds itself squeezed. The vital infrastructure hinges on fragile supplies, raising stakes higher than ever. As residents yearn for normalcy, they navigate a sorcerous web of instability.
The projected image of Kaliningrad as a thriving European city fades, giving way to disillusionment. Citizens grapple with their identity: are they Russian, European, or something in between?
The watchful eyes of Kaliningrad citizens scrutinize Moscow's moves, keenly aware that the consequences of losing their home reach far beyond mere geography. Amid this turmoil, a shocking twist arises. The shadow of fear obscures the hope for unity, a reminder that the struggle for belonging has only just begun.
As Kaliningradians confront their dilemmas, the margins between survival and prosperity continue to narrow.
What will they choose when faced with the ultimate question: loyalty to a crumbling empire or the fight for a future of their own?
The answer, now more than ever, hinges on the very fabric of their collective identity. In the beleaguered city of Kaliningrad, uncertainty thickens the air like a winter fog. For years, this territory has stood as a paradox, an outpost of Russian influence in Europe, yet a point of vulnerability. The whispers of war hang in conversations in the streets, where shoppers eye empty shelves in disbelief. Within the elite corridors, doubts about Moscow's power swell like storm clouds. A landlocked exclave, Kaliningrad is now surrounded by NATO forces, feeling the grip of sanctions tightening relentlessly since 2022. Citizens feel the weight of change as the chasm between government proclamations of order and public cries for freedom widens. The disconnect is palpable. Citizens thirst for a European way of life while grappling with Moscow's suffocating grasp. With almost 500,000 residents, Kaliningrad now finds that timing trumps the validity of travel documents. Behind the facade of control, chaos brews. The Kremlin is panicking. Kaliningrad's isolation is no longer a mere geographical fact but a strategic nightmare. The Sulky Corridor, a narrow NATO choke point, looms over military ambitions, a constant reminder of fragility. In the summer of 2022, harsh sanctions forced a panic over dwindling supplies. The subsequent easing of some transit rules failed to restore confidence, leaving residents in a state of unease, as the simple question of what goods would vanish the next day loomed large. The fabric that once wove together Kaliningrad's historical ties to Europe and its Russian identity is now fraying. The Polish government's recent renaming of Kaliningrad to Królewicz sparked outrage in Moscow but felt liberating to many locals. The new name echoes their European roots, offering a glimmer of hope and clarity amid confusion. Amidst the clamor for identity and belonging, skilled workers are fleeing in hopes of a brighter future across the border. Those left behind navigate a minefield of rising prices and shrinking job opportunities, all while security checks intensify like a vice grip. The psychological strain upon Kaliningrad's elite is palpable, marked by a shift towards a war-focused economy that hits the city harder. Discipline has replaced freedom as the mantra of near-total control tightens on every aspect of life. While whispers of loyalty take on a haunting tone, news of mysterious deaths among the elite fosters mistrust.
Just recently, the body of Alexis, a high-level executive, was found near the city, becoming another name in a chilling roll call of the fallen. With each violent incident, the prevailing belief that power guarantees safety crumbles further. The streets of Kaliningrad pulse with a growing defiance against the Kremlin's tightening fist. It's a silent uprising, a desperate yearning for change. As Kaliningrad grapples with uncertainty, the cry for a more open society reverberates quietly but steadily through back channels. Casual conversations reveal a palpable shift toward pro-European sentiments. Social media buzzes with posts capturing hopes for future generations, underscoring fears of compulsory military service. Disillusionment festers as educational exchanges vanish. Scattering ambitions across borders. Small businesses struggle under the weight of loss, highlighting a disconnect as reliance on state contracts rises, choking private sector creativity. Vivid contrasts define Kaliningrad, a fragile economy strained under the weight of EU sanctions and logistical chaos. The region is geographically hemmed in, politically pivotal, yet psychologically battered. This Russian enclave exists in an awkward dichotomy, squeezed between NATO's expansion and the reality of dwindling resources. Although the ports offer brief respite, every movement of goods is precarious, subjected to whims beyond their control. As the cost of living spirals upward, the struggle to carve out a future becomes a lurking reality. The innocence of dreams seems overshadowed by harsh decisions: stay in a fractured landscape or venture into the unknown. In the end, neither path offers permanence. Will Kaliningrad find resilience and adaptation, or will it be forced to seek escape from its self-imposed confines? The answers remain obscured, waiting, like shadows cast on the crumbling walls of its storied past. In the stricken enclave of Kaliningrad, a heavy stillness clings to the streets like a morning fog that never quite lifts. This peculiar territory has long served as a paradox, a bastion of Russian influence nestled within Europe's embrace, yet a point of vulnerability. Shadows of conflict lurk in hushed conversations as shoppers gaze at empty store shelves, their disbelief palpable. Within the opulent halls where power dwells, growing unease festers like a slow-burning fire that threatens to erupt. Surrounded on three sides by NATO, this landlocked outpost has felt the chokehold of escalating sanctions tightening since 2022. The population of nearly 500,000 grapples daily with the widening chasm between the government's assertions of stability and their fervent desires for liberation. An urgency fills the air, the realization that time has become more critical than passports. The facade of Russian authority is starting to fracture, and panic breeds behind the walls, as Kaliningrad faces a geographical isolation that morphs into a strategic nightmare. The sulky corridor, a narrow NATO bottleneck, looms ominously over military ambitions, symbolizing fragility and instability. In the summer of 2022, rigid enforcement of sanctions sent shockwaves through the community, igniting a frenzy over dwindling supplies. The subsequent easing of some restrictions failed to mend the broken confidence of the citizens. Every day brings a fresh anxiety about which essential goods might disappear from the shelves next. Time-honored connections to Europe are now fraying against a backdrop of rising tensions with Moscow. When the Polish government dubbed Kaliningrad as Kroloviets, anger bubbled in the Kremlin, but to the locals, it felt like the shedding of chains, a celebration of heritage that offered a hint of clarity amidst chaos. As debates over identity loom large, a steady stream of skilled professionals seeks greener pastures beyond the borders. Those who remain navigate a treacherous landscape of escalating prices and fewer job prospects, as government surveillance and security checks tighten around them. The psyche of Kaliningrad's elite bears the weight of a shifting reality. The drive toward a war economy bears down hard, leaving discipline in place of freedom. Loyalty, once an unyielding bond, now takes on a chilling tone, as whispers of untimely deaths within the upper echelons of society circulate. Just recently, Alexis, a notable executive, became another unfortunate addition to a grim list of high-profile tragedies, his body discovered near the city. Each revelation chips away at the illusion of safety, casting doubt on the belief that power is synonymous with protection. The streets, once passive, pulse with a quiet rebellion against increasing authoritarianism. There's an undercurrent of hope mingled with frustration. A longing for an inclusive society opens up like a flower, fragile yet determined. Conversations behind closed doors now resonate with pro-European aspirations, surfacing feelings of disenfranchisement. Posts populating social media reflect dreams for a better future, intertwined with fears regarding conscription.
This sense of disillusionment is further fueled by the abrupt disappearance of cultural and educational exchanges, scattering aspirations like leaves in autumn gusts. Small businesses, already on the brink, struggle under mounting losses, revealing a stark disconnect as reliance on public contracts stifles entrepreneurial spirit. Kinnenrad's reality shapeshifts, a delicate balance disrupted by economic tension, EU sanctions, and logistical upheavals. Within its fenced boundaries, the space where Russian authority intersects with the relentless pressure of NATO's growth casts a tough shadow over the community's fabric. Kinnenrad may possess ports offering potential respite, yet the movement of goods is fraught with risk, controlled by dynamics beyond their reach.
With living costs soaring, the prospect of carving out a sustainable future feels increasingly elusive. As the dreams of its people hover uncertainly, the question lingers: will Kinnenrad find a path toward adaptation, or will it resist, seeking an escape from its own shadows? The answers lie hidden, waiting to emerge like whispers from the crumbling stones that hold the weight of its historic legacy.